Hello, welcome to Furry and Spoilt. Today I'm going to talk to you about your puppy's first night. I always let my dogs sleep in my bed, and so the first night they are brought up and they're just put into the bed with us, and then they're with their pack. I really wouldn't advise you to use a dog crate because your puppy is scared. He's been taken away from his mum. He doesn't know where his mum is. He doesn't know where he is, and he's really scared. You don't want to be the person that then locks him in a cage for the night. It's really not going to do great things for the bond that he has with you. And so I really wouldn't recommend a dog crate at all. I've never used a dog crate, and like I said, my dogs just come up and sleep on our bed. So there are a few royal rules that I always stick to with them all, and it's all worked out well, and they've all learned how they have to behave when it's bedtime so that we get a good night's sleep. First thing I would say is when I've got a puppy, I change the bedding so that it can be bedding that if it gets totally and utterly ruined, it's not the end of the world. If you do it right, there really shouldn't be that many things getting ruined, but you have got to remember that he's a tiny little puppy and that there will be the odd accident. So you've got to be prepared. So I always take off nice bedding and put bedding on that I'm not too fussed if it gets ruined. Another rule that I have is there is to be no toys on the bed and no playing. It has to be very strict about that. Your dog will very quickly learn when it's time for sleeping and when it's time for playing, when it's time for feeding, when it's time for walking. If you just stick to a routine, he'll very quickly get the hang of that, and he'll very quickly understand that when you go to bed, it isn't a time to play. The only time I do let them have toys is if they're teething. Now, when I say I don't let them have toys, if they choose to bring a toy to bed, or if they go and get a toy and bring it in the night, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with them just sort of chewing a toy nicely, just sitting on the bed on their own doing it. I have no problem with that at all. But I don't bring toys to bed, and neither does my husband. And we don't encourage toys. If they bring the toy and they want to play nicely, then that's absolutely fine. But don't you bring the toys to bed and encourage any playing, because they're going to want to do that at 3 o'clock in the morning. So don't encourage that. Absolutely no playing at all in the bed. The other thing is, in the mornings it's very tempting sometimes to play with your puppy because they're all cute and it's very tempting. But it's a really bad habit to get into because they're not going to know the difference between 3 o'clock in the morning and when it's time to get up. So I always have a no playing policy at all. And if they are bringing the toy to bed and they want to chew it because they're teething or whatever, that's fine, but don't get involved with it. And if they bring it to you and they drop it by you to play with them, ignore it. Completely ignore it. Always have water in the room. Now, there are trainers and behaviourists out there who recommend that to stop your dog from going to the toilet in the night, don't have water for them. So cut water off at 6 o'clock in the evening or something like that. That is just straight out cruel. Wanting a drink of water is a dog's right. It's a survival right, and it's just cruel. So a dog must always have access to water. I've heard some trainers say to give them ice cubes into a bowl. If you were thirsty, would you just be happy with sucking on an ice cube? It's cruel. I have done a whole other video about how to toilet train a puppy, and I will add that at the end so you can go and see that, and it's really worth looking at because it will teach you how I've taught all my puppies to be toilet trained, and at night time it just makes it so much easier. Now no food, so there's no food at all at night time. There's no food. That's another whole thing that I've done a video on. If you decided that you're going to free feed your puppy, which is where you just leave food out all the time, I found that to be quite a terrible thing to do for dogs. And if you go to the playlist for feeding dogs, I've done a video on there about that and about why free feeding isn't something that I have found to be good for dogs. It causes behavioural problems and it just causes all sorts of problems. One of the problems is that you can't then work out when he last goes to toilet. So although they are going to want to go for piddles during the night, you can kind of work out when they have their final poo before they go to bed on when you feed them. And if you're free feeding them, they could eat a load just before they go to bed, and then they're going to need to poo in the night. Not that that's a problem because you've got the puppy pads down, which I will show you in a minute, but that isn't going to work at all. The other thing is that you could say, well, you said they have to have water. Well, surely what about if they're hungry? Here's my other dog now, little Albert. If you work out their feeding correctly, again, there's a whole video on that, your dog won't go to bed hungry, and there's ways to know. And like I said, go to the plates, go to feeding, and it's all in there. Another thing that's important is that you don't give them any attention at all in the night, apart from cuddling, so they can cuddle up with you, and that's fine. But don't get too involved with stroking them, and like I said before, no playing at all. Go to bed the same time every night if you can, because dogs, like I said, they very, very quickly get into the habit of a routine. Very quickly. My dogs know exactly when it's time to go to bed, and so it's very easy to get them into that routine. The other thing is to make sure that your puppy is tired before he goes to bed. So, you know, do that with a walk or playing or however it is that you're going to get your puppy tired. But make sure they're not overtired, because an overtired puppy is like a ratty toddler, and they won't go to sleep, and it will be terrible. So just be aware of that they're tired, but they're not overtired. If you're not familiar with an overtired dog and how that all works, you know, as always, there's a video on it. I always let my puppies under the duvet, because I think if they're cold, they're not going to sleep. And if they know they can get under the duvet with you, then they will. And then they're nice and warm, and they're much more likely to sleep and settle down. I have found over the years, all the puppies that I've had, they've all slept on my head. All of them. Now, I've always assumed it's because it's the only thing that's sticking out of the duvet. And then it's warmth. But they've all been welcome to come under the duvet. But I have found these two were the ones who really, really, when they were tiny puppies, they slept on my head. Right, so this is something I want to show you. So we don't have puppies at the moment, but what we do have is my little Albert, and he has learning difficulties. So I have to set the bedroom up like I would for a puppy all the time, because he gets confused, and sometimes he does need to go to the toilet in the night. So this is the setup that we have. Now, this step here is just made out of breeze blocks, and we just have it by the bed here so that he can get up and off the bed. Now, this wouldn't actually work for a puppy, because that height there is too high. So what you'd have to do for a puppy is make it come out further, and then make the last step higher. And it's just breeze blocks. Look, if I move the blanket, it's just made out of breeze blocks. You can get all kind of fancy steps and all sorts of stuff that go up to the bed so that your puppy can get on and off the bed. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're great, really good. I've just always found that I prefer the breeze blocks, because it means we can change the size of them depending on, you know, if we've got puppies or whatever. And then I just put the blanket over it, and it's all fine. But like I said, if you want something that looks a bit nicer, you can get some really nice stuff. It's important, really important, that you do have something like this so that the puppy can get on and off the bed easily. Because apart from the fact that he could fall off the bed and really hurt himself, and that I've seen that a lot, it caused horrible little injuries, but also the puppy needs to be able to get on and off the bed really quickly, because they can't hold their bladder, and so they need to be able to get on and off the bed really, really quickly. So show them how to get on and off the bed, make sure they know how to do it, because if they can't get off the bed, they will just piddle on your bed, and you know, obviously that's not ideal, that's not what you want. You need them just to be able to quickly get on and off the bed. Right, so this is the puppy pad setup. There's nothing glamorous about it, but you know, I've got dogs, it has to be how it has to be. Now, an adult dog is not going to need to go out for toilet at night. If you're finding that your adult dog is asking to go out to toilet at night, are you feeding it dry food? Because that will make it drink a lot more, and that will mean that it needs to go out for piddle. If it's asking to go out in the night for a poo, are you letting them free feed? And therefore you're not able to cut off feeding with enough hours before the dog goes to bed. So these are just the puppy pads. They're just, in case you don't know, they're just standard puppy pads. You can get them all over the place. They have something in them. I have no idea what, but it works. It attracts puppies, just always has done, no problem at all. And I do have some newspaper underneath it. And then underneath the puppy pad, I've got a piece of lino. I don't know what it is about these puppy pads, but they work. They have always worked. Right, something about the puppy pads that's really important. It's really important that you don't reward them when they go for a piddle in the night. Now, like I said, the video I've done about how to toilet train a puppy, I tell you all about how when the puppy goes to toilet on the piddle pad, you reward them. But that is when the puppy is downstairs with you, or, you know, not in your bedroom, wherever you spend the day with them. then you reward like crazy when they use the puppy pad. But you don't reward when they go to toilet at night time, because at night time, once you get into bed and you go to sleep, the dog should learn there is no interaction from you. He can cuddle up with you, but there is no interaction from you. So even if you notice that he's got off and gone to toilet, just pretend to be asleep. He's not gonna mess up his toilet train just because you don't reward him at night time. It's really important. And also certainly never ever don't give any praise, and certainly don't give any treats, because you might think that puppy looks all innocent, but I've seen puppies pretend to go to toilet when they didn't, just to get a treat. Yeah, Harry, we're looking at you. He's done it, and that's as an adult, but as puppies they will do it. So you have to, even if you see them go to toilet, what I used to do was, if I saw that the puppy was going to get off the bed, look at Albert's dirty face. I do care about him, but he's just, he gets very dirty out on his walks. I would sort of like with one eye half open have a look and make sure that he's got off the bed okay and he's okay, but I wouldn't reward him or say anything. I just pretend to be asleep. The other thing is to use something to keep the dog in the bedroom. You don't want the puppy having access to the house at night. So I just use fire guards. You can get fire guards. You can get some quite nice fire guards on Amazon, and just block off the bedroom door so that they can't get in or out. Now another thing is that if you've got two dogs, or if the breed of dog that you've got is going to turn out to be a really big dog, or for whatever reason you don't want the dog sleeping in your bed, what I have done is slept downstairs with the dog. So again, Harry here, because we had Albert when we got Harry, and Albert was quite young at the time, so they were going to play at night and stuff like that. So obviously I couldn't have that. I needed to teach Harry that we just went to sleep, and that was the end of that. And so what I did was I slept in the sitting room with Harry for about 2 weeks just to get him into the habit. And all the same rules applied. If he brought a toy to me because he wanted to play, I just pretended I was asleep. I didn't move, and he very quickly got the hang of it, that when you went to bed to sleep, and there was no interaction with me at all. He could cuddle up with me, and that was fine. And he got the hang of that really quickly. And then we were able to move back into the main bedroom, and he was perfect. He didn't bother anybody at all. It went really, really well. And like I said before, I've had German Shepherds. Well, there's no way you can have a German Shepherd sleeping in your bed. Well, I'm sure some people do, but there was just no way. He was this dog was much bigger than me. And so when we got him, I slept downstairs with him for a few weeks, until he was okay. He did have to sleep downstairs on his own, but not in a crate. I'm so against crates. I'm not going to go on about it now, because I've done videos on it, but I'm so against crates. It really causes problems. It's not good for the bond between you and the dog. It causes behavioural problems. It's really, really not a nice thing. And if you think about it, you don't really have to think about that too much. It's very logic. It's a cage, and when they're at their most fearful, you're going to lock them in it. That's not good at all for bonding. So with like my German Shepherds, I slept downstairs with them, and so I just slept on the sofa, put their bed on the floor next to the sofa, and they had the option. They could either come up and have a cuddle and have some reassurance, or they could get onto their bed, and then bit by bit by bit I just got them used to sort of not needing me quite so much, and then they were able to just sleep downstairs on their own. Another thing that I've done with bigger dogs is had their bed in my bedroom, and that they're from the beginning they've had to sleep in their bed. The only thing I don't like about that is that it means they still got those first few nights when they're scared, and so I don't think that starting them off where the bed's on the floor and you're in the bed, I think it's just such an unnatural thing to do. I think the dog is going to want to sleep with you and get that reassurance from you. And if you sleep downstairs with the dog, you can get that. So if you sleep downstairs, you can have the first few nights where he gets on the sofa with you, but then you can say, now you have to stay in your bed, and you can slowly teach him to stay in his bed, and then you can move the bed into the bedroom, his bed into the bedroom, and he will have learned that he's not to come up with you, he has to sleep in his bed. But those first few nights, expecting him to naturally sleep away from you, that's just not nice, and it's not going to do great things for the bond. You have to understand that the first few nights he's not being naughty. Hello. he's not being naughty. He's scared. It's just straightforward. He's scared and he just wants some comfort, and they absolutely deserve that. In all my years, I've owned dogs for, I don't even know, 25 years. I don't know, years and years and years. All shapes, all sizes, all problems, all everything. And I've never known a dog to benefit from being put away from the owner the first few nights. And when I've spoken to people who've got problems with dogs, and I often ask about that first sort of stage in their life, and you can just bet your life they locked him in a cage those first few nights. It just causes so many problems. It's just such an unnatural thing to do. So those first few nights, let your puppy be with you no matter where you intend that puppy to be afterwards. So that's it. That's all I've got to say on the matter. Harry here wants to go. He wants me to stop with the camera and just let him go to sleep. Albert's here making the bed more cosy because it appears that it's not cosy enough for him. It's funny, isn't it? I sleep in there, but it's not cosy enough for my dogs. So we're going to say goodbye now with Harry here, falling fast asleep. And see, you can see here how he's got his pillow he lies on. So what you can do is put a pillow next to you. If, like me, there was me and my husband, we put a pillow in between us, and we just always plonked our puppies on that. Sometimes they stayed on it, sometimes they've had a cuddle with you, but they've known that you're there and that they're safe. And yeah, like I said, our dogs all sleep in our bed, and yeah, it's lovely. But if you really don't want them to sleep in your bed, I understand that. If you think they're disturbing you or whatever, that's fine then. Just get them a nice bed and let them sleep on the floor. But the important thing is that to begin with, you're there for your puppy, that you're there for the reassurance, and that your puppy ends up seeing you as a safety thing. There's my darling little Albert. So that's it. So as always, you know where I am, Instagram, Twitter, all under Furry and Spoilt. So thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.